The streak is over. The streak is over for these Marlins, but no time to dwell on that. We are looking ahead. 4-game series against the Mets, and Marc Luino is in the house helping me to preview this crucial Marlins-Mets series on today's Locked On Marlins.
You are Locked On Marlins, your daily podcast on the Miami Marlins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Greetings from England and welcome to Locked On Marlins. It's your daily Marlins podcast with me, Peter Pratt. Of course, don't forget to follow me on Twitter, guys, at Miami Marlins _UK. Don't forget the underscore. No Instagrams, no TikToks. Straight up Twitter. That's it. If you want to subscribe to the pod, do it. If you want to subscribe to the YouTube channel, equally, do that. We are here now on YouTube, as hopefully you can see. And if you are watching, you will see we have a guest. Marc Luino is in the house. Metsed up host. Main content king. I mean, the CV is long, but as well as the giraffe neck is long too, brother. How you doing?
Yeah, Peter, thanks for having me on, man. I'm excited. I definitely like to talk Mets. So now get to talk with a Marlins fan about the upcoming series. It should be a good one.
Absolutely. What a perfect connection here for this one today. So we're going to talk Marlins Mets on a 4-game series, what I believe is a crucial series. So both clubs are really wanting to make some noise in this one. Before we dig into that, real brief summary and recap from last night's action. The Marlins, they drop it to the Angels. Ohtani on the mound. My view on that, Ohtani, first time I watched him pitch live and full, sensational. Absolutely sensational as a pitcher. His splitter, unhittable. Ohtani was sensational. Trevor Rogers tried his best to hang in there, pitched well. And the Marlins didn't help himself. But they also didn't help themselves in that fifth inning. It got out of hand. 2 hit by pitches and a botched fly ball into the outfield. John Birdie puts on the ground. In the end, runs were put up, and that was kind of the ball game there at that moment. So could have been a close one. I would have been intrigued to see if Trevor would have got out of that, how the game would have played out. But that fifth inning was the big crucial one. The Marlins only 3 hits in general. Not enough offense. Ohtani immense. Trevor Rogers seeming like himself. He's getting back there, but just needs to avoid that one big inning. Anyway, that game's done. It's in the books. Sandy Alcantara won his game. Ohtani won his game. I mean, that was, if I was a betting man, that's where I would have been going on that one. Mark, did you get any of that series at all?
Yeah, I mean, I keep an eye on it, of course, still National League East. And anytime Ohtani's on the mound, or just playing in general, you should probably keep an eye out for him because he's so exciting. But, I mean, the Marlins still continuing to get good pitching. It just really always comes down to hitting for you guys, I feel like.
It really does. I mean, that sums it up there, right? I mean, 3 hits. I mean, you're not going to win games with 3 hits that often anyway. I mean, maybe you squeak 1 or 2, but no doubt it was definitely not our best hitting day, that's for sure. Nevertheless, let's get into this Mets series now, mate. We've played each other, pretty frequently, actually. We didn't see each other at all until June. No. And then all of a sudden it's like bang, 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 Marlins Mets. My takeaway thus far has been Frankie Lindor is now a Marlins killer. He has been absolutely on fire. Has he cooled off at all? Please tell me he has.
I mean, he's been a little bit cool recently. He's just kind of doing the same thing he's done all season, which is just like hover around like a 750 OPS, which in a small sample is kind of relatively random, but he's still getting on base, still hitting okay, shows power once in a while. I think he's cooled off, though, from maybe the last time that you guys saw him. But it's also funny to hear from another perspective of like a Marlins killer, because I could just go through your guys' lineup and talk about all the Mets killers you have. I mean, John Birdie being the biggest of them all.
I remember last series we had, you were tweeting about John Birdie, and I was like, there we go. This is it. We got Mark tweeting about John Birdie. I mean, we wouldn't have predicted that when we spoke in the offseason, I don't think. So
John Birdie has always been a thorn in our side. And just like playing you guys in these 2 series, which felt like, I mean, they were within a week basically of each other. I was like, man, this Marlins team, like I'm definitely not bad by any means. I feel like a lot of people still think that the Marlins are a bad team, which is just patently false. Annoying though. Like you guys just like are scrappy. You kind of don't really like give up. And it's not that you're particularly like going into a Marlins series and be like, oh my goodness, like so scared, but they make you play a full 9 innings, and that's annoying.
I think that's been the key. That's why we've really had a good run the last couple of weeks, maybe month or so. we've all of a sudden started coming alive in the ninth inning. Like you said, we make you play the full 9, and the pitching means that we hang tough mostly. So you are playing the 9, and all of a sudden the Marlins have started to get some big knocks in the ninth. And that was the last game we played, actually, with Nick Fortes with the walk-off bomb. I mean, everyone's going, who the hell's Nick Fortes?
Myself included. I was like, this guy, what you are? I mean, like, I know that he's a ball player, but this guy, really?
I know. Sums it up. So it's good to hear that Frankie Lindor's cooling off slightly, but he's been man of the 2 series thus far. Big knocks. I remember he had a real big one against Sandy Alcantara in the last series. I mean, if you're getting knocks off Sandy, you're playing well. You're hitting well right now, no doubt. So, I mean, you'll get to see Sandy again this series. Obviously, a 4-gamer, most likely. But, I mean, Sandy's pitching. He's just pitching out of his mind right now. I mean, does it kind of feel like vintage Grom, like in terms of what Sandy's doing now?
You know what? It's a little bit different in that, like, you know, Sandy, he has the stuff, obviously. You see him throw like 100 miles an hour. He goes deep into games. It's different in that I feel like their repertoire is, you know, still relatively different from each other.
Yeah.
But Sandy is just as dominant. The guy's been unbelievable. He's got to be one of the favorites, if not the favorite, for the National League Cy Young. And we could kind of see this happening over the last few years. I feel like his first big start was against the Mets, where as a rookie, I guess it was back in Miami, back in the Mickey Callaway days, which were bad for the Mets. And it was like, who's this guy who just pitched a great game out of nowhere? And you've seen it building and building to him being one of the best pitchers in baseball now.
No doubt about it. Talk to me then about what is definitely going to be one of your all-stars this year, Starling Marte. Old friend Starling Marte. We spoke about him in the offseason. I think you liked the deal at the time. I mean, has he performed in line with expectations, above expectations? I mean, where's your head at with Starling Marte?
I've been very pleasantly surprised in the power that's come from Starling Marte, just because he's normally a guy you wouldn't expect to kind of be on pace for like a 20 home run season, which he's on for right now. 15, I know that's not a huge difference, but his power, he's just a really, really good player. And I've always been able to appreciate it from afar, but now seeing it up close and personal every single night, I'm just so happy. I feel like once a week I tweet out, I love Starling Marte. Like he's had his ups and he's such a great teammate. He's such a great player. Plays the game the right way. Like he does all the intangible stuff. And then when you get him on the field, it's like, oh, he's going to possibly be an all-star this year. Like he's been so vital to this team. I'm so happy he's going to be here for the next 4 years.
No, it pains me, that deal. And what you've been through this year is exactly what I went through in 2020. Because, you know, I'd heard about Starling Marte, you know, and you'd seen him in little series here and there. It's not until you watch him every day that you truly appreciate just how good he is. I was like, wow, actually, Starling Marte, what a stud. Absolute stud. And he was playing center field for the Marlins. We really need him at center. We still need him now at center, actually. And that caught me off guard in the first series between us because we hadn't seen each other at all. I hadn't watched a lot of Mets games, actually. And there was a fly ball out to right field. And I was like, oh, okay, right, who's there? Starling Marte's made the grab. I was like, oh, Marte's in right field. Oh, okay. I didn't even realize. So Nimmo's in center. He's having a great year too.
Yeah, I think Buck he says he wants the strongest arm out in right field, which I don't disagree with. Starling Marte definitely has the strongest arm of the 3 outfielders for the Mets. But I also think it's a little bit of, I don't want to say like injury management, but keeping Starling in right field gives him a little less wear and tear than playing him in center field. And over a 4-year contract, maybe this will keep him a little bit more fresh for the entirety rather than maxing him out for the first 2 and hoping we get right field in, you know, the last 2 years.
Yeah, it makes sense. What about Mark Canha in left field? Because again, another signing, probably a real under the radar one. Like the Marte one I was in on, to be honest, I was thinking, I wish the Marlins would go after Canha. There was talks about Canha.
Yeah.
How good's he been too?
Yeah, he's just like, we call him Marky Cheerios on our podcast because he's just like, he's pretty boring, but he's boring in a great way. Like he's reliable. He's there for you. You know, Cheerios has been through the test of time in terms of cereals. That's just Mark Canha. Like you're not going to watch him and be like, oh, this guy is an incredible player. But then you dive deeper into the numbers or you watch him every single day. And it's the little things that he does. He gets on base. He has 8 pitch at bats. It feels like every other, you know, time he gets to the plate, and he plays a great left field. All stuff that in the scorebook maybe doesn't, you know, carry so much weight as home runs and RBIs and all that. But overall, he's going to still be a very, very important player every single game he's out there.
No doubt about it. Who has been your favorite player in 2020 thus far on this Mets team?
I've been really happy to see Jeff McNeil back to his old ways. You know, I'm relatively friendly with Jeff McNeil. We've done some stuff in the past, and to see him struggle like he did last year was so bizarre because he's a guy who just has elite bat to ball skills. And it felt like last year he just kind of got caught in between. Do I want to be a launch angle guy? Do I want to put the ball in play? He didn't really know what he wanted to be. And this year he's gone back to his old ways, slapping the ball around the field, and he's hitting like 320. And coming back from an injury too, he's finally starting to look healthy. He's been the guy that I've been really happy about, along with Luis Guillorme, who's a similar player and a little bit of a cult hero for the Mets fans.
Yeah. Take us behind the curtain, and I don't know if you know this specifically, but for Jeff McNeil, where he's kind of thinking about what type of player he wants to. Is that him? Is that him making that decision, or is that the Mets? Like, who's leading that, if that makes sense, in terms of the type of hitter he's going to be?
Yeah, it seems like the Mets have very much come with the idea this year of being contact oriented. And I feel like you can see that with their K rates and walk rates and everything around the league. They've made a clear, adjustment in how they want to play as a team. That being said, I think a guy like Jeff McNeil, who has, been vocal about this, has said many times that he's no longer trying to hit home runs. If he hits a home run, it happens, but he wants to go back to being the player that got him to the majors instead of being the player that he thinks will, end up being the guy that gets you big time paid in the majors.
Yeah. Interesting. And I guess that's totally suited Jeff McNeil because, that's the kind of guy he was anyway. And maybe he was just trying to adjust his game just to, fit in almost like what the major league wants from a player. And, he kind of got away from himself, I guess.
Yeah, it's really easy to get caught up in hitting home runs. That's what guys get paid for. One, that's what everyone gets excited about. The guy who hits a slapper down the left field line for a single doesn't necessarily get all the hype, but that makes a very productive player. And in this Mets lineup, that's exactly what we needed, was a guy who's going to put the ball in play consistently like Jeff McNeil.
Sounds like you got tons of really good, boring hitters. That's really annoying.
I was talking about you guys being annoying. The Mets have low-key been annoying because we don't necessarily hit that many home runs, but we do just get a lot of hits. Like even last night against the Reds, I think we had 15 or 16 hits, and we scored 8 runs, but for the majority of the game only had 2. So it's like some games it'll break through and we'll get all those runs, but then we'll have a 10-hit game where we score 1, and it's like it's frustrating to us too. It's tough when you don't hit home runs. That's what it is.
Yeah, for sure. Particularly if there's guys on base, home runs then. That was Adam Duvall's MO last year for the Marlins, where, a couple of runners on base. As soon as there's runners on base, Duvall just came alive and he'd be hitting bombs. The next thing is another 3-run bomb. Great. Breaks open games. And, when you got the pitching that we have, and actually the Mets really do too when they're back and healthy, it really helps, no doubt. So, couple more to get into shortly. But before we do that, first ad of the day. And it's our good friends over at BlueNile.com. So if you're celebrating one of life's special moments and you're thinking about jewelry and engagement rings, BlueNile.com, they're the original online jeweler. And they basically, they've got tons of different options available. But if you're thinking about popping the question or celebrating a milestone moment, get unique jewelry with modern convenience with the online shopping at BlueNile.com. So how do you do it? What am I trying to do? Build the engagement ring of her dreams? Get onto the simple online tools, and you can choose a diamond shape, size, bigger is better, and clarity, as well as setting style. And then Blue Nile's jewelers will handcraft her perfect engagement ring. Each one is one of a kind, bespoke jewelry. Imagine that. Imagine dropping down onto one knee into Lone Depot or Citi Field, maybe, dropping down with a Blue Nile bespoke engagement ring. She'd have to say yes, no doubt about it. So what have you got to do? Get yourself over to BlueNile.com today. Use the promo code Locked On. It's Locked On for $50 off any order of $500 or more. And trust me, if it's engagement rings, you will need to spend at least $500, no doubt about it. So that is BlueNile.com, promo code Locked On, $50 off any order of $500 or more. All right. Mark, do you need any engagement rings, by the way? BlueNile.com could be the spot. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe my girlfriend won't listen to this one. I think we've got a little bit of time before that.
Yep. Don't tag her in this one to go and listen for sure. So, the Marlins Mets series comes, like I mentioned, it's a really interesting time in the schedule for both clubs. Like the Marlins are trying to make a run, get back in it, because we were really sunk. Our May record really sunk us. And then we've kind of got things going again. The Mets, on the flip side, scorched the life out of it. Everyone was basically handing the division to the Mets at the end of May, saying, division's done. All of a sudden, the Bravos have come alive. And here's the question. Are you feeling the heat? How are you feeling about these Braves now?
Yeah, as much as I'm trying to say I'm not feeling the heat, I'm definitely feeling it. 2.5 games, especially with a big series, this is going to be the thing. This is such a trap playing you guys, because I feel like every Mets fan, and I honestly wouldn't even blame the players right now. Probably have their eyes circled on that Atlanta series.
Mm-hmm.
And that's dangerous because the Marlins are playing good baseball. You guys are a good team. And you're a little bit improved on the last time that we faced you too, because you got guys back like Joey Wendell, Brian Anderson. I think Aguilar is going to be playing too. So like,
Yep.
I feel the heat. I'm really hoping we can just keep kind of treading water, and then hopefully the talent, rises to the top. But from the beginning of the year, I did say it's the Mets and Atlanta really at the top of this division, and whoever wins that season series, I do believe will win the National League East. So it's stressful. Like, the worst part about this is the Mets aren't even playing bad. We're 20 games above 500. And in that time of staying 20 games above 500, the Braves have just not lost and are 2.5 games back. Like, it's not the classic, like, lol Mets, like they collapse, they choke. No. The Braves have just not lost.
This is it. It's hard to contend with teams that literally are about 30-2 in the space of the last 5-6 weeks, or whatever.
That's what it feels like. It feels like they're playing, the Nationals every other game, or they're playing the Rockies or the Pirates. Like, it's unbelievable.
Yeah, no doubt. And I guess that's an interesting wrinkle to this this series itself, because 4-game series, we were thinking actually the way things were lining up could be Sandy Alcantara, Max Scherzer, because Scherzer's back. We'll talk about him in a sec. And we're thinking Scherzer lines up for Sunday. Sandy lines up for Sunday. Sandy loves Sundays as well, by the way. And I was thinking, great. Next thing is, Scherzer's pushed back. And when I looked at it, it's like, he's pushed back to game 1 with the Braves. Oh, okay, the Braves are that's the next series. Was it managing Max, or was it prioritizing the Braves, do you think?
I think it's like a little bit of that. And I think there's also a third wrinkle, which was Chris Bassett coming back into the rotation after being on the COVID IL. So I think they wanted to make sure that they kept him relatively on the same schedule, which dropped him in on Friday. So it was like, okay, do we then move someone up to pitch Thursday, have Bassett Friday, figuring out the rotation that way? Or do we just push Max back to Atlanta? Buck would like to tell you that he didn't push Max back to Atlanta because it's Atlanta. He's saying this is just how it works. Myself, I think it's a little bit of, a little bit of sportsmanship there of, well, we got to have our best guy going up against their best guy on Monday. But man, Max and Sandy on Sunday would have been fun too, though.
Oh my days, it really would. It really would have been a stunning matchup. I mean, it'd be a great one anyway, because I think it's Taijuan Walker, I think, is going for the Mets, if I recall, without looking at the matchups now. And
you're correct.
He's been lights out against the Marlins. The 2 starts, he's been Cy Young contender himself against the Marlins, and a Marlins killer with the ball. So he's been great. What's been good? This is the thing for the Mets. Clearly, Max has been missing for a sustained period. Jake is on his way back. He's been terrorizing some guys in the Marlins system as well this week.
Poor 19 and 20-year-old kids have to face shit with the Grom.
He's ending careers in Jupiter this week, I saw. So that was nice of him. Max is obviously on his way back now. But how have you been handling this kind of, and obviously McGill was opening day starter. He's now on the IL as well. So basically 3 guys out the rotation. You've done well. I mean, 20 games over with 3 dudes out. What a performance. But who's been the standout? Who's kind of stepped up for these Mets in the rotation?
Yeah, I mean, I think you mentioned him. Taijuan Walker has really stepped up in this absence. He's been great. He's developed a new split change that he's been throwing a lot that's been relatively unhittable. And of course, I'm going to knock on some wood there as he's pitching on Sunday. Make sure that we don't jinx him there. But his new repertoire has completely changed the outlook that he is as a pitcher, where before he was just kind of a middle of the rotation guy that we got some length out of every once in a while, and he would give you some good starts, but he's a little hit or miss. Where recently he's been a lot of hit, and it's because of this new repertoire. So he's been great. Carrasco stepped up. Bassett's obviously been huge. Like, it just feels like everybody has basically taken the level that we expected them at and just stepped up a little bit. I mean, even a guy like David Peterson has now developed this wipeout slider, which is unhittable. You guys won't see him. You'll get Trevor Williams instead. But even a guy like Trevor Williams, he's had some decent starts. He's a bit of a coin flip. He's a little bit of a 50-50 of whether or not he gets hit hard or not. But even just getting length out of a guy like him every 5 days when we are missing 3 big pieces of our rotation is massive. Yeah,
for sure. And it's funny the way, these matchups match up where your coin flip guy, in reality, so it's Marlins coin flip guy as well with Dan Castano. When you look at the numbers, you go, okay, 1-on-1 with a 2.42 ERA. Who the hell's Dan Castano?
That's how I felt the last time we faced him too. It was like,
exactly,
we're not hitting Dan Castano. Like, I don't want to disparage the guy, but by no means do I watch him pitch and go, there's Sandy Alcantara 2.0.
No. This is it. Baseball's a weird game, right? Where you blow Sandy up, Castano rocks in, and the Marlins walk it off with a Nick Fortes bomb, and you think, what's just happened there? I mean, that lineup the Marlins threw out there on that Sunday as well was like a proper Sunday lineup. I was thinking, oh my days. But somehow they got the win, and that's just baseball itself. So there you go. You got Castano and Williams going this evening's game 1. What I think is this for me then becomes game 2 is the real crucial one, I think, for this series in general. Pablo Lopez, Chris Bassett. Bassett just back off the COVID IL, right, for Bassett?
Yeah,
I wasn't clear.
COVID IL, yeah.
So he's back. Pablo Lopez, who's kind of been scuttling a little bit in some ways since a comebacker on his wrist against Houston a few weeks back. However, carried a no-hitter into the 7th on Sunday. Granted, it was against the Nats. So, there is that asterisk there on that one. But Pablo Lopez back to some form. The Marlins clearly are going to fancy themselves on Sunday to win the game with Sandy going. They will always fancy themselves, and they should be favorites to that game. It doesn't matter who's going. For the Marlins, this is the one I'm circling and saying key game on Friday. What about you on this one?
Yeah, I think everyone definitely has Sunday as like the one where everyone wants to watch, because even if we don't think we're going to win, you got to watch Sandy Alcantara pitch anytime he does. But I agree with you. I think that Bassett Pablo Lopez game is super interesting because of the two storylines. Like you said, Pablo's been struggling, pitched well, but he's also historically pitched poorly in Citi Field, which doesn't obviously match well for him this weekend. Hopefully stays the same. But Chris Bassett coming back from COVID too. It's always interesting to see how those guys come back after they, are sick and after they have had like a week off of time. It's a little bit different. I don't know. It's so weird because we've seen each other so much recently in this short period of time and didn't see each other before this time. Like before June, we didn't play. So it's not that I'm like have any particular game circled. It's just like, man, I know what all these guys can do. I know what the Marlins can do. All these games are going to be relatively close because the matchups outside of maybe Sunday, but even then, like it's a teeter-totter of like, okay, they have a slight advantage with Sandy over Taiwan. We have a slight one with Carrasco over Braxton Garrett, Bassett Lopez, even Trevor Williams, Castano, even. Like it's a very even pitching matchup over the grand scheme of things with slight advantages to each in different games.
Agreed. I agree with you. I think this is a really finely balanced matchup and series. Right now they are finely matched teams in terms of the win-loss record, but the Marlins are improving. I think that's the key thing you mentioned. Definitely. And they have added to the roster with particularly Joey Wendell being back. Brian Anderson too, but Joey Wendell in particular, he's come back and he's been on fire as well since he's been back. And I love nothing more than a guy out there with black cleats, in your language, black cleats, no flair, no batting gloves, just rolled up sleeves and slapping balls everywhere. That is Joey Wendell in a kind of nutshell. So he's the type of dude you need, right?
That's like our Guillorme in a way. Like he plays all the infield positions. He's not going to hit home runs, but he slaps the ball around the park. Like Guillorme has no batting gloves. I think I saw him for the first time ever wear cleats of bright colors the other day. They're both like gritty players, I feel like is the best way to describe them. Hard-nosed, gritty. Bill Belichick would want him on the New England Patriots. Like,
oh, no doubt.
These guys play the right way.
Yeah, they really do. They really do. And it was a big miss for the Marlins because Joey Wendell started hot too. So did the Marlins. Then Joey Wendell with his hamstring problems. It's the problem with these hamstrings. Like, you try to nurse it back and then you go full go and it's gone again. And, it's then another month. So, praying up that Joey Wendell and his hamstring is fine. But him coming back is definitely correlated with the Marlins doing some damage again and winning games and winning close games. Like I said, a lot of clutch hits, though, as well. And everyone's chipping in. This is the thing. It's not been like, right, is it just Pete Alonso hitting bombs or Frankie Lindor? It's been like Nick Fortes, Avi Garcia finally did something.
Yeah, finally.
Brian De La Cruz hitting a couple of bombs in big spots.
Another Met killer.
Yeah, there you go. So, and John Birdie stealing bases. It's been a really interesting ride for sure with this lineup. It's been a bit patchwork and a bit, spotty here and there. But I do feel with Wendell in there, clearly we're missing Jazz too. And that's been a big blow the last couple of weeks with his back. Yeah. But Wendell back in gives the Marlins a little bit of a kind of push. So final ad, and then I'm going to ask you to put your GM's cap on as well, if you wouldn't mind, because we're all going to be trending that way. I feel like we're both going to be buying something at the deadline. So I'm really intrigued to get your take on where you would go if you had the cap on. But guys, our final ad of the day, it's our good friends over at BetOnline. BetOnline.net, it's your number one source for all your betting needs and sports info. And you can find all the latest sports developments, league reviews and news, including this year's NHL playoffs and Major League Baseball, of course. and it's a continued source for all your sporting wagering information, including live betting, esports, and scores. And it remains the best spot for all your sports scores, podcasts, and news this season. It's got everything covered, every sport you can ever think of. You can wager everything: MMA, boxing, golf, tennis. Wimbledon's happening now. You could probably bet on who'd be the next prime minister in the UK, probably. I haven't looked that up. We should do. If I was a betting man, I'd go for Rishi Sunak, by the way, if anyone's listening in and wants a flutter on that one. So what have you got to do? You got to head to the website today. Use your mobile device to learn more about the trends in action. Bet online where the game starts. All right then, Mark. GM Mark, he's been drafted in. They've been promoted. The Mets Up podcast has really taken off. They've said, right, get this cap on. What do we need to do at this deadline to effectively secure a real World Series run for these Mets?
Yeah, I mean, I think the obvious answer that everyone in every team always is going to say is get more pitching, right? So Luis Castillo, Frankie Montas. I'd even contact the Marlins and see if Pablo Lopez is available. You never know. I'd love to take him on. I'd love to take him to the Mets. So I think pitching is like the boring answer. I think the fun one is more on the offensive side. I think the Mets could look at a guy like Trey Mancini to be our DH, just because we do need some help against left-handed pitching, and he mashes left-handed pitching. Also saw a fun stat that if Trey Mancini played in Citi Field this year, I think he would have like 15 or 16 home runs, where he has, I think, 7 in Baltimore. So get him away from that newly massive park and that tough left field. Trey Mancini's playing a whole lot better, and I think he's a good ball player too. Josh Bell would be some fun. I think there's a lot of good bats out there that the Mets could get to help them at the DH spot, which has been a little bit of a hole this year.
No doubt. I mean, I love the idea. I don't say this, like I want the Mets to go and win everything. We're division rivals, so I'm not going to be cheering for the Mets heavy. But now you've said it, that Josh Bell hookup with the Mets to me sounds amazing. I mean, we've seen Bell just recently because we had a series against the Nats, and Bell's just a straight up stud. He's just a hitter. And, switch hit. I've never seen a bigger switch hitter that just hits well from both sides. He's immense, Josh Bell. So I'm shocked he's still there, to be honest with you. I would have thought someone would have gone in already and pulled the trigger, beat the market maybe.
You know what it is? I think the Nationals know that Josh Bell is going to be a hot commodity, and maybe they're trying to wait for him to get to his absolute highest. You see a team grab a guy like Trey Mancini almost. Josh Bell's price maybe goes up because, well, now who else is left? Who else do we have? We've seen teams do that in the past. I mean, the Mets traded Pete Crow Armstrong for Javi Baez for half a year. So you could make a lot worse trades than trading for a guy like Josh Bell right now. I mean, he's a good ball player. The Mets probably can't get him just because of the in-division thing, but I would love to see him there.
It's a nice fit too. One of the other main storylines that I've been kind of picking up on, other than clearly DeGrom being back and just ending people's careers in Jupiter this week, which is great to see for baseball in general. And, actually, let's just quickly touch on Jakey. What's the kind of projected timeline, if there is anyone at this stage? I mean, how quickly could we see him back at the major league level?
Well, he's making another appearance tomorrow. So on Friday, he'll be making another appearance down in St. Lucie. So he'll be making another rehab. I don't know how quickly they truly want him to get back or how quickly he can get back, because he only threw, 1 and 2/3 innings the other day. So he still definitely has to ramp up quite a bit. It's just, do the Mets want him to come up and pitch 3 innings, or do they want him to come back when he's pitching 5, 6 innings? I think that's really the decision they have to make. And it's probably also up to Jacob deGrom a little bit too here on what seems like a contract year for him.
Yeah, that's the other, I guess, wrinkle right now. There's some rumors knocking around. He's going to opt out and whatever. And all of a sudden the Braves are getting excited. I've seen a bit of Braves Twitter getting excited. We're going to sign deGrom. But how do you think it plays out with deGrom and the Mets?
I do think that he probably opts out. I've been hearing that for a while now. I think he probably opts out. I don't actually have any information, but it seems like that's probably the best route for him, just because he needs to sign a long-term contract now with the age that he's at and the injuries that have happened. He probably wants to go somewhere and know where he will be for the rest of his career. Agreed. Do I think it will not be the Mets, though? Steve Cohen's got all the money in the world.
There's not a money problem, is there?
Yeah, not a money problem. So it really comes down to whether or not he wants to still be here and still be a part of the Mets. I don't know. I also think it's a little bit of posturing maybe by his agent, just throwing out the Braves name. We know that the Mets and Braves are huge rivals. How do you get the Mets to spend more money? Say the Braves are going to go after him.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I'm with you. I think most likely outcome with deGrom, he opts out, but I still then think he signs a multi-year deal with the Mets anyway. Yeah. And maybe even they just do something even before that. I don't know. But
yeah, who knows?
Those Port St. Lucie jerseys, by the way. Not sure about them. The ones I saw the other day. Not convinced, by the way.
The 4th of July camo. The minor leagues likes to have fun. I mean, we saw Robinson Cano, right, wearing the
Yeah.
SpongeBob jerseys for the Padres minor league. So I applaud the creativity. Maybe we work on that one a little bit more, though. Wasn't a great look.
The graphics team went a bit crazy with that one. So, yeah, I'm intrigued to see the way things go with DeGrom in terms of this season. Yeah, clearly we all want to see him back. You know, the Mets clearly do in their run for the rest of the year. So it's going to be interesting. Another wrinkle that's been knocking around, and I've been hearing, and maybe this is from what you guys have been doing too. There's some prospects brewing as well. There's some guys that's being highly touted that are coming. Who are those? You know, some of the listeners, the Marlins fans, may not be as tuned into the Mets, and I'm certainly not. So who are the guys that maybe we should be kind of looking out for, kind of they're progressing quickly through the system? Because I know there's at least one or two.
Yeah, the number one guy is Francisco Alvarez, catching prospect. Just got re-ranked as the number 2 prospect in all of baseball, according to MLB Pipeline. The dude is an absolute superstar in the making. At the plate, might be the best hitter in all of the minor leagues right now, Francisco Alvarez. And what's crazy is he's only 20 years old and turns 21 in, I think, November. So he's so young, super talented. Still probably has to work on the catching a little bit, but the bat is there. It's going to be there for a long time. I actually got a chance to interview him last year. The dude loves playing baseball. Like, he loves having fun. He's going to be a player that, even if you're not a Mets fan, I think you can be a fan of him just because he's going to be doing the bat flips. He's going to be having fun. And he's also a short, little stocky guy. So to see someone of his stature be such a good hitter is going to be fun. Like, he almost has, like, I don't want to say a Williams Astudillo type build, but he's the same height. And, like, he's a squatty man. So he's definitely going to be fun. Marc Vientos is a guy who I think has a legitimate chance to come up relatively soon, especially if JD Davis continues to struggle. He's a third base, first base, corner outfield type prospect. Doesn't really have a position in the field, but he can swing the bat, and he's raked, throughout the minors in his career. You have Brett Beatty, Ronnie Mauricio. Those are the other names, but they're probably not coming up anytime soon. Alvarez and Vientos, though, are the guys to watch that could maybe make the MLB roster at some point this season.
Wow, I mean, what a story that'd be. The 20-year-old catcher up and bombs away from him. The kind of, in the shape of, I love that analogy there. That's that like lookalike with Williams Astudillo and his vibe. So
a little more athletic, I think, than Williams Astudillo.
Yeah. Hey, listen, we shouldn't downgrade Astudillo's agility. He's a fun dude, no doubt, but no longer at the major league level with the Marlins, back down in AAA. So won't be seeing Astudillo for some time. We're out of time, but before I let you go, how do you see this series playing out? Clearly, you're hoping for a series win. I mean, a sweep clearly would be the ultimate, but where's your head taking you with this one?
Yeah, right now, on the schedule for us, I see 2 games that we should win, and that would be the Bassett and Carrasco starts. And then Taijuan versus Sandy, it's hard to say that you should win going up against Sandy Alcantara. You honestly should never say that, but Taijuan has done it this year. He's beat Sandy, so you never know. That's why you play the games. And then really, tonight's game on Thursday, it's a coin flip. I mean, flip a coin 50 times, see which one comes out. If it's heads more, it's the Mets. If it's tails, it's the Marlins. I think that's really what it is.
There we go. So could go many different directions, this one. I think from a Marlins perspective, on the road, having just, split a series with the Angels, but coming off a 7-game win streak, whatever it was, I think splitting the series here on the road would be absolutely fine for the Marlins, and they would take that. The problem I'm looking at with this Sandy start is it's on Sunday, and I know what our Sunday lineups are like. So that scares me. I'm kind of thinking, Don, just rest them on Saturday instead. Go for Sandy,
Right? Yeah, I feel like a lot of teams don't do that for some reason. Like, you should rest your guys around maybe the pitching, not necessarily the day.
That's what I mean. I mean, I don't want to, leave Braxton Garrett out there to dry or anything, but you know what I mean? But, and Brax coming off a career day out last time as well. So, we shouldn't completely rule him out. But at the end of the day, the Marlins' best chance of winning a game is with Sandy pitching.
Yep.
But at the same time, you need a lineup that's serviceable behind him to score some runs. You still got to score some runs. You can't win 0-0. So
can't give him the Jacob deGrom treatment.
No, this is and Sandy has been getting a bit of that, no doubt. So I'm with you. I think this is going to be a tight series. There's a couple of coin flip games and really could go one of a couple of different ways. The Marlins, if they split this, I am totally happy with that. So we'll leave it at that. Mark, for those that aren't watching the show and have the graphics to help them, where can people find you on Twitter? And let them know about the work you do as well.
Yeah, so I'm a YouTuber. I also have the Mets Stuff podcast, which is now the official podcast of the New York Mets. So if you're interested in the Mets stuff, go follow us over there at Mets Stuff. But you can follow me everywhere on social media at Giraffe Neck Mark, and that's Mark with a C, the proper way to spell it.
There you go. You got it. All right, then, guys. That is us out of here with Locked On Marlins on Thursday. Thursday's episode in the books. Peter Pratt, Marc Luino for this one. Thank you for making Locked On Marlins your first listen of the day. And if you're thinking about your second listen of the day, why not go and hop across to Locked On MLB Prospects? Lindsey Crosby hosts that one, and he's a prospect encyclopedia, and he's going deep on the MLB stars of tomorrow. That is us done. We need the Fish to have a big series here in New York. I think they're thinking the same thing. I'm fancying a sweep, though, for this one. Let's go, Fish.